Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Ryan Aranda here, my best life Paraguay. And today we're going to be going over and doing a reaction video to the Moons documentary, Why Living in the West is Now Absurd, right? So not just America, but the entire Western world. And for a lot of us who, are a little bit more ahead of the curve for this whole moving abroad thing, um, a lot of us saw this coming, and but it's good that it's in the mainstream conscious now, and it's being covered by uh, local and country news agencies, and that's all a part of this documentary. I just watched the first couple minutes, but yeah, let's get right into it. Right before that, though, I know a lot of you emailed me regarding sales opportunity from the last video that I did, and I'll be getting back to you guys as soon as I can here. But I have received those. I'll get back to you as soon as I can here. Anyways, okay, let's dive right into it.
New Zealand. Whether you're strolling along her crystal blue coastlines or hiking up her snow-covered peaks, it is paradise on Earth. If that wasn't enough, New Zealand ranks as one of the best places in the world for wealth, health, and happiness. This is heaven on Earth. So why is everyone desperate to leave?
People are leaving the country in record numbers.
It's the highest ever recorded for an annual period.
Unemployment's rising. It's getting hard to find jobs out there.
It's going to be hard for all of us to find a place that kind of help us grow as people.
We're seeing the same thing happening all across the West. For the first time in history, people are desperately leaving paradise. From South Korea to California and the UK to New Zealand, it's a global movement. And just stop for a moment. Think about how many of your friends, family, and the people you know that are thinking of leaving or have already left. How many times do you catch yourself in dismay at where your country and where your city is going? Do you ever think about how much more fulfilled, happier, and connected you'd be if you maybe just left it all behind? Wherever I go in the West, I look around and I'm really shocked at what's going on. And it led me to think, why is this happening everywhere? Why is this happening all at once, and why is this happening now? The problem just gets so much worse the more you look at those questions, as these aren't just any people leaving. They're often our best and brightest. The majority of people leaving are young, working adults. The generation that drives economic growth is losing hope and checking out.
Yeah, as the populations are already diminishing, as is, and then this is only adding to it. So it's the perfect storm. It really is. For Western countries, population decline and plus this phenomenon, it ain't looking good for home countries. So anyways, let's keep going.
If you ask a politician why this is happening, you would get a lot of different answers. Recently, New Zealand's Prime Minister Chris Luxon was asked why people should stay in his country.
In the future, if I work hard, I can get ahead. I can move around my country feeling safe. I can actually get a great education for my kids. Parents can get healthcare. So that's what we're going to do.
If you work hard, you can get ahead. People want to feel safe, get a good education, and get healthcare. These are the reasons he highlights for young people to stay. But people naturally disagree with this. People working good jobs simply don't have enough to live anymore. New Zealanders have been charged so much for groceries, the supermarkets are now facing charges over alleged price gouging, along with other predatory practices. Meanwhile, regular people...
Yeah, groceries are absolutely out of control in America too. I see the TikToks, go down with people what people spend $100 on, and it absolutely blows my mind. It really does. Like relatively simple things. So yeah, man. Even Paraguay. The whole world obviously is experiencing inflation, but the Western world, the high cost of living world, is exponential. And then you throw in on top of that, for us living abroad, the devaluing of the dollar too, the last couple months here. So it's just, oh my God, man. Yeah, it really is. There's so many things adding to this perfect storm. But let's keep going.
People working pay the costs and see none of the returns ever. In lots of ways, they're the lucky ones. Especially for young people, unemployment has been rising in New Zealand. Some people have been forced to leave because they simply cannot find a good job in their home country.
It wasn't our first option to leave New Zealand. And it's been really challenging to try to find a job. And he received a few offers from Australia, so we just had to, do what is right for our family.
But before we continue, something crazy is happening on the 2nd of December. You see, Agent Opus is running a live experiment where an AI editor will go head-to-head with real human creators. They'll have the same brief and the same amount of time, where 60 seconds of video has to be made from scratch in one.
Okay, we're gonna skip this ad here. I think it's just a minute or so. Yeah.
Going to win, human or AI. If you're right, you can win rewards and early access. And if nothing else, you get a front row seat to see where this stuff is genuinely at right now, rather than just where people claim it is. So if you want to watch it live or take part in the contest, go to the link in the description below. Because even if you are skeptical about AI editing, this is one of those moments where it's worth seeing the comparison play out in real time. For others, it's the cost of housing that's pushed them over the edge. While rents have fallen recently, thanks in large part to the exodus, wages still have a lot of catching up to do. This is often the problem. Price hikes for groceries, bills, and everything else haven't been met by rising wages. So when the cost of living skyrockets, people get less out of life. And in 2024, wages grew by less than half of inflation in New Zealand. Like most in the West, the country's population is also aging rapidly, with fertility rates at 1.58 births per woman, well below the replacement rates. They, like every other Western country, have used immigration to mask their own challenges, but this isn't holding up and doesn't incentivize young people born in the country to even stay. Last year, 30,000 more people left New Zealand for Australia than came back. It's the biggest loss in over a decade, and most were under 30, young professionals, skilled workers, nurses with a decade of experience who couldn't land a job at home. There are now 600,000 New Zealand-born people living in Australia, with wages around 33% higher on average and sometimes double what they are at home. Meaning moving across the sea is just a no-brainer for those who can afford it. But don't get me wrong, Australia has its own housing crisis and cost of living problems, as we've spoken about before. But the wages there do broadly keep up, though this will likely change if people keep arriving from overseas. So right now, it might be among the last Western countries where you can climb the ladder without being a genius entrepreneur or having family money. How long that lasts is yet another question. So you do get the sense that something bigger is missing in modern Western life. It feels like society is grossly failing to meet our expectations. People just don't feel fulfilled, and our modern consumerist lives can't fill that gap. Politicians might point to this emptiness, but they can never offer a real concrete solution, because New Zealand is far from alone here. Last year, over 500,000 Brits left the UK. Nearly 40% of young professionals aged 25 to 34 are actively planning to leave in the next 5 years. IT workers, healthcare workers, teachers, these are the people who make a country function, who create the culture to begin with. Some head to Dubai for tax-free salaries and consumerist luxury, where wealth is the culture and authoritarian safety keeps the streets clean. Dubai has 250,000 Brits now, rising sharply over the past decade. If you're wealthy, Dubai is a consumerist paradise. Luxury villas, pools, it's an adult playground. There is no political wokeness, no cancel culture, no high taxes, just easy living in a barren desert, where all of your desires will be catered to regardless of law, unless you're one of the millions of migrant workers who built the place. But the question is, why leave the beautiful UK for that? The UK, like so many others in the West, has become an extractive society. Money funneled to London and the elites who buy more assets and increase control while taxing the rest. The damage of this is visible everywhere. Proud buildings and prosperous neighborhoods sucked dry and left to rot. Beautiful old towns completely abandoned. Churches sold to the rich while the community is completely destroyed. High rents and less disposable income have killed British towns and villages. You walk around and it's just people loitering in Turkish barbershops. And the US is starting.
Yeah, man, I just saw who is he? Kurt Cass. He was in Manchester, right? The UK. Oh my god, dude! Like it's literally like this, like right? Like the cities look like aesthetically pleasing, like wonderful architecture, great roads. Like the Europe and the UK have good transportation systems, but it's full of drug addicts, youth gangs of like every ethnicity. Like it's crazy, man. And then there's also, it's weird because there's soft on crime policies for things like the R word, but then they crack down on things like a political joke, literally a joke, right? So it's just it really feels like if the entire Western world were one civilization, and I guess it kind of is, right? Just one like entity in itself, because of the interconnectedness of the world. Like it's just failing, dude. And then when politicians do nothing about it, they're all just operating out of self-interest, right? And then that self-interest is so automated now too. So they become richer, they favor the rich, but they never look out for us because they can't relate to us. And why would they have any incentive to relate to us? Unless like we're gonna start revolutions all around the world. And I guess in some countries there are some Gen Z revolutions, but I don't see that for happening in like America. Nah, man, people are stuck on their iPads in America. Like that, yeah, I understand how it happened in Nepal, but in America, nah, man, like people aren't they people might be waking up to the fact that moving abroad is a better option if it's anywhere in the realm of reality for individual or families or whatever. But your average Western society, I don't think is going to be starting revolutions. You know what I mean? A lot of people talk about, oh my God, there's going to be a civil war. I don't think so. I think there's just going to be a lot of internal neighborhood turmoil, possibly regional within countries, maybe. But like even when I say regional, I mean like really small regional, skirmishes. But anyways, the point is the whole Western world really is failing. Okay, let's keep going.
Starting to see the same thing. Californians are leaving in record numbers, some to Texas, but others to Mexico. You walk through any of Mexico City's expat neighborhoods and it looks like what LA pretends to be. Clean, sunny streets, walkable, and with a real sense of community. And of course, everything else is a fraction of the cost. The prices in Condesa or Roma Norte are cheaper than equivalent areas in the US, though obviously much more expensive than the poorer parts of the city. The streets are clean and sunny with trees lining the sidewalks. Everything is walkable and crime is somehow pretty low in these areas. The biggest difference though is really in the community itself. The atmosphere in these neighborhoods is just different. People are lively, happier, and willing to actually talk to each other. Just living and working in the same neighborhood instead of commuting an hour each way is a massive improvement on Western life already. There are independent coffee shops and restaurants everywhere at just seemingly normal prices. And these are all signs that there's a thriving local economy. Real neighborhood businesses run by real people, and it gives the area life, making it feel like an actual community rather than just a collection of isolated units, an endless suburban sprawl. Of course, the Westerners who move to places like this are often just living in a bubble to some extent, leveraging their Western salaries, whether through remote work or savings to afford a higher quality of life than they could back home. But that's exactly the point. You're getting a better deal, a better quality of life for the same money or less. You just feel generally happier in life. But here's where this mass exodus from the West gets strange and unexpected. You know the obvious candidates: Australia, Thailand, Mexico, and Canada. But it seems like today, people are more regularly leaving Western countries for Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Vietnam, and Albania. A Polish think tank recently found that fewer people are heading to the West and more Western migrants are actually coming into Poland. Videos on Instagram and TikTok show stunningly clean, beautiful, modern, and cosmopolitan cities full of vibrancy. And similar to Mexico to the US, the culture seems alive when at home it's dying. 20 years ago, suggesting that someone would leave London for Albania or somewhere like Warsaw or Bucharest would have been insane. Albania was what people were supposed to be fleeing from. Over a third of their population, 1.5 million people, emigrated in 25 years. Poverty, crime, and the Albanian mafia all once colored people's perception of it. Now, Albania is one of the safest countries in Europe, all while the mafia criminals emigrated to the West. And it's the same situation in Croatia, Bulgaria, Lithuania. Even recently war-torn countries like Bosnia are safe for most. A one-bedroom flat in Eastern Europe costs €500. In London, at least 1,800 easily. Same quality of life, sometimes much better. You've got better romantic interest, more community, and a general sense of happiness and ease. In South Asia, the difference is even more stark.
I know that was a really quick point there, but better romantic interest, right? I don't know if he's going to go into more detail about that, but yeah. But I mean, the stark differences. What did he say? 1,800 for a flat in London or whatever, an apartment versus 500. You know, just that one thing alone is difference between $1,300, right? So that's why you can take significant pay cuts to move abroad. You know, money's not everything. It's the value of the money that you're making. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, you know, I don't really have to explain this stuff. You guys are smart enough to understand it, but at the same time, though, you know, I'm glad people are waking up, but I don't want to see Western countries just completely fail. Like, this should be a wake up, not just for normal people, but for politicians to address the cost of living crisis, right? And not just in individual cities like New York or Los Angeles, but nationwide. You know, like, come on, man, we give us a fighting chance. You know, like we need a fighting chance. You know, so I mean, come on, man. Yeah, so let's keep going.
In Thailand's Chiang Mai, you can live comfortably for well under $1,000 a month and have an amazing lifestyle. It's why we always see these videos of Bangkok's insane skyline on your Instagram or TikTok feed. But it's not all just about affordability and culture. Nearly half of UK expats say their mental health improved within 6 months of leaving. What you realize is that they're not running away, they're just running towards something the West can no longer provide. The calculation has flipped. Countries we look down on are actually outcompeting the West on safety, affordability, community, and quality of life. Clearly, there's some.
And yeah, I mean, you guys, you know, the whole mass shootings thing, right? In America, for example, I know that's not the entire Western world, but it's like there's zero here in Paraguay, right? Zero, right? And it's just like, you know, and I know that's not the only element of safety. I get it, duh. I understand. You know, I've covered this topic myself, but also in other reaction videos as well for people who live down here. And I mean, it's just, you know, you do feel safer, right? Everybody wants to think of Latin America as every country's like as unsafe as Pablo Escobar's time in Medellin or something like that. But nah, dude, like times are changing. Times are changing, you know? And better communities and bigger families and, you know, do wonders for things like safety, right? Everything is interconnected, right? So yeah, okay, but let's keep going.
Thing brewing here other than economics. This feels like a symptom of something deeper and more systemic under the surface. Our modern societies, the most advanced economies on the planet, are simply not delivering on expectations. There is a fatal mismatch between what they expected to be and actually are. There's this common theory called Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a pyramid showing what humans need to thrive, not just survive. At the bottom, food, water, shelter. One level up, safety, stable job, healthcare. Next, community, belonging, connection. Above that, respect, achievement, purpose. And at the top, self-actualization, realizing your potential and finding meaning.
Yes. Wow, this is a beautiful pyramid. Wow. Okay. Yes. That's so true, man. Finding some meaning, finding some purpose, dude. Like I talk about that all the time, and you know, if you guys go back to my first videos of this channel, I did my residency trip, but then I had to go back to the U.S. for 9 months, and you know, figure out all the stuff I needed to there before the move here to Paraguay, to Paraguay. And I, you know, during that time and those years prior, I just felt like a nothing, like, you know, just, and it's no disrespect to the job positions I had. Yeah, I like my coworkers and all that. It's nothing like that. But when you're in America, you're just, you know, you're nothing, dude. Like, you know, you feel like you're nothing. You feel like you're a peg in the wheel. You feel like you're you're not really doing anything. And when you get to my age, in your mid 30s, maybe younger guys, or actually whatever age, can understand this, but you know, you really need to ask yourself some of these questions, right? Because you're not getting any younger, and I didn't want to go out with any purpose, right? So and that's exactly why I started the channel, in my own way, because I'm not able to just like fork over what X amount of dollars, right, to all these charitable organizations. This is one way I can give back. I can invite good willing, good to do for themselves and for my country of Paraguay, where I was born and now live here. If I can bring some of the right people here in my own way, that's paying it forward, and also creating something for myself, but so it's tackling all these things that I've always wanted to do, right? This channel, but other things I do as well. But I feel like I do have more meaning here, right? I feel like I'm breaking barriers and then being able to explain some things and cover some topics and be here on the ground and be here as a man of the age I am, going through real life with the challenges and the ups and downs and the real life of what it is to live abroad, and not to show you drone footage or whatever, because that's just vacation stuff. Like, living abroad is a whole nother beast, to say the least. And so yeah, but anyways, I'm glad this is at the top, though, the meaning and purpose part of life, or here, self actualization is the desire to become the most that one can be, right? So yeah, I mean, it's hard to do that in America. Everything's unaffordable. You don't feel like your life has much meaning. In the past, the last thing I'll say before we continue, but me and my guy Aaron talked about it, that like, why did older generations put up with America? Number one, because there was a more solid of a middle class, and there was more of an ability to work your way up in society, to get promoted, to have ability to save money, to get a house, to have a functioning car, to even have like items that are actually meaningful, and some few things that aren't just like created on assembly line. Like, even if you look at like old cars or whatever, like there's actually like thought and that went into them or whatever. Even down to stupid stuff in America that it's just like everything is just junk, dude. But back in the day, it's like because they're when older people say like, oh, it ain't built like it used to be. Well, that's actually kind of true, man. Like, if you look at some of these new houses, they're built like crap, dude. They'll like the big bad wolf could just huff and puff these things down, but like some of these like solid houses built in the turn of the century, those things are like, it's gonna last forever, and you just have to renovate the insides. You know what I mean? So it's everything, man. It's everything. I know that was a long rant, but anyway, let's keep going.
Western societies in the 70s and 80s were moving up this pyramid, and they often compared themselves to others. One of the core principles of the US was the pursuit to happiness.
Actually, yeah, that was the last thing I said, or was about to say is, yeah, there's more purpose. There's people put up with the BS because there was a reward at the end, right? So yeah, there, driving an hour sucked each way, but guess what? You got to go home to a wife and children and a house that you were paying off in a reasonable amount of time, and your dollar was strong, and eggs didn't cost $12 goddamn dollars, and so you weren't just constantly stressed. Like, yeah, okay, there's the normal stresses of life, but you weren't just crushed economically by society, which can really destroy kind of your dreams too, if you don't think outside the box and take some chances and do a few things to separate yourself from the flock. So anyways, that was my last point, and that's exactly what this is getting into now.
And of course, Western countries participated in the Renaissance. They industrialized earlier than most, and people from the middle and upper classes grew richer and richer. A postman or truck driver could afford a house on one income, where they felt secure and had time for community and meaning.
Exactly what I was just saying. Exactly. I have not seen this yet, you guys. So it's just, oh my god, it's so infuriating, you know, being a younger person, and and having to live this. I mean, not here in Paraguay. This is, I'm glad I'm here in Paraguay, but I mean, like, having to have put up with this, you know, and so I mean, Jesus, dude, like, exactly what it's saying. One job, as a blue collar or white collar, didn't matter. You had one job. You could afford the American dream. This, what's on camera right now, and it's a slap in the face. It's an insult that us young generations do not have that ability, even though we did everything the same as the older generations. So I get it, dude. And maybe that's why, like, some people, I don't know, like, there's something where some people make it and they just want to burn the bridge behind them, or forget where they came from. But that's not me, man. Like, I really feel for people who are still going through it, like, not just in a way where I just kind of like brush it off, but like, I feel people's pain, dude. you know that teacher's pain, that whatever, that firefighter's pain, of just doing everything they're supposed to, but they just can't keep up. So I get it, dude. And it's personal. It's personal. So all right, let's keep going.
Marriages were stronger because there was less financial stress. This was the promise we'd all been working for. We'd moved beyond survival and we were meant to thrive. But somewhere down the line, the West started sliding backwards. Self-actualization has transpired to mean working too many hours, having no time for any sense of community, living completely spread out from one another in boxes, and just having no energy for meaning when you become exhausted from surviving, just collapsing in your bed watching reels. Actualizing oneself means waiting forever to get through education and work, and then finally struggling to meet someone to eventually have a family sometime in your late 30s or even your 40s. You'll struggle with money and struggle to retire with the possibility of 50-year mortgages. This situation would have been unthinkable not that long ago. You'd have kids at 20, retiring before 60, leaving a good 20 years of relative freedom to enjoy life with a house you've paid off, all whilst living with meaningful connections around you. But Western societies today are failing to deliver the promise they made. We're supposed to be at the top of the pyramid. And that's when you realize the cost of living isn't all about money. It's what you're willing to pay financially, emotionally, psychologically, even spiritually to live in a Western country. That cost-benefit analysis has reached a tipping point. We pay so much and get just less and less out of it. It's a serious case of diminishing returns. People are calculating. I can barely survive, I have no community, I have no purpose, I have no real true friends, everything's transactional, and I have no future. So why am I paying this price, along with heavy taxation? This is simply why young people are just leaving the West altogether. And it's not just one country here, it's every Western society that's heading this way. But some are much more advanced and show us what we're spiraling towards. Take South Korea, where there are massive obstacles for people born poor. You see it in education. Everyone has a right to free education, but tests are so strict and passing grades are so tight that most are locked out of top universities, and therefore the best jobs. The richest can buy in. For everyone else, you need evening classes the hard one. Regular kids finish school at 4 or 5 p.m., then have another 4 to 6 hours at night school. Tuition for the best hog ones is incredibly expensive. Lower income families spend nearly as much on private education as on food. You can't afford the top hog one? Well, that's a massive disadvantage. And
Dude, South Korea is just like, I know Seoul, and I know their country looks absolutely incredible, but for the average person struggling, or just the average South Korean, it's just a constant grind. So like they literally have patrol boats under their bridges because people will jump off and for self deletion. Like, you know what I mean? And it's, I mean, that's what we're heading in the U.S. Maybe people ain't jumping off bridges like back in the whatever time, off the Golden Gate or whatever, but that's another thing that I just watched right before this was self deletion rates, especially men. It's 4 out of 5 people who do that are men. So and I've been there, so it's just, oh my God, man, it's crazy. All this is crazy, man. And I know what I was going to say next. The Western world is heading to as dismal of a situation as South Korea. But anyway, let's keep going.
No one's going to save you. They're also competitive to get into, often relying on a parent to help, booking classes, coaching, sometimes doing homework. And so if both parents are working full-time, that's another massive disadvantage. So the system will give you this illusion of opportunity, but only the luckiest, most connected, and richest kids have a shot. And the prize? A life working long, grueling hours to stay above water. Despite how bad things have gotten in the West, it's not quite as bad as South Korea yet. But for years, South Korean culture has seen moving to the US as the ultimate goal for their children. That was the selling point of the US. You weren't limited by class or background. It's why today there are 2 million Koreans living in the US. Over half were born elsewhere, many settling in California. And you can see why: the climate, beaches, mountains, and forests just across the Pacific Ocean. But opportunities were what counted underneath the aesthetic. Broadly speaking, you could earn a good living if you put your mind to it, providing you had a strong work ethic. But opportunities were also accessible due to the West's inclusive institutions and open society. With things as they are now, though, how much longer will this illusion even last? Koreans are some of the hardest working people in the world, but soon even they will fail to make it in a Western society rigged against them. The West is still living off its reputation, but that reputation is built on a foundation that rotted out decades ago. People arrive expecting the West that they were sold with movies. If it's in the US, it'll be the American dream, the land of opportunity, streets paved with gold. Then they get the reality instead: precarious work, unaffordable housing, social isolation, homeless people everywhere on the streets, and a general apathy in the air with no path upwards. And often the only thing propping up lots of high streets is crime. Over in England, just recently, it was uncovered that hundreds of small shops on British high streets were all linked to a single crime network run by Kurdish immigrants. They operated as fronts, selling illegal tobacco and vapes on the side to supplement their income. But here's the irony though: even though the word is getting out, people are still desperate to get to the West. The soft power is ever present. London, California, they still have the glow, the reputation built over decades. You see it everywhere. South Koreans still dream of moving to America.
Yes, sir.
저는 미국에 살아도 좋을 것 같다고 생각은 해요.
People from developing countries in the Commonwealth think that London is the dream. The West previously deserved reputation, along with its marketing in movies, media, and decades of cultural dominance still works. But when people arrive today, they're often just shocked by the reality. You move to London thinking it's an amazing opportunity, then suddenly you arrive and it's a hellscape. You're struggling to make rent within 6 months, you can barely afford to live, you're worried about roadmen on the streets, it's dark, gloomy, and nihilistic. The opportunities promised don't materialize. Nobody trusts one another. There's a general sense of fear in the air. The opportunity was a mirage. There is no real culture anymore. Just tons of people from all different parts of the world struggling to make it work, all crammed in one city, making everyone fend for themselves. And yet none of these things truly explain what's even happening. Whether you know it or not, your life is decided by the social contract. You never signed it, but it's always been there. If you follow the law.
And so just one thing I say really quick about immigration, man, is like, it looks different from America to the UK, man. Like the UK is just like, it's literally like this. Like it looks like a doomsday. Like Manchester and London. And what was that other city I saw some YouTuber go through? I couldn't believe it, dude. I was like, dude, like, I mean, the UK like used to be in songs like, like going from London to Heathrow and all that stuff. Like, man, like, I mean, but nobody wants to go there anymore. It's just like, man, dude, I can't, I don't know, man. Yeah, the whole world is flipped on its head. It really is. So anyway, let's keep going.
Work and pay taxes, you're guaranteed certain rights and opportunities. A couple of generations ago, this was real. The Enlightenment idea of the American dream wasn't just a slogan, it was actually a reality. But then around the 80s and 90s, the people who made it to the top pulled the ladder up so many people couldn't climb up so easily. The baby boom then dried up and governments promoted immigration to supply the economy with cheap servant labor. And that actually is another symptom of self-actualization. Everyone's too busy finding themselves to work and contribute to the economy. Lots of people don't have a proper job until they're in their mid-20s. So governments looked at the falling birth rates, the labor shortages, and the lack of young workers, and their solution was simple. Import workers from countries where people still live by the old social contract and pay everyone else less. In chasing this new model, we lost what made our old jobs valuable: sense of place, role in the community, culture, and identity. A carpenter knew who he was, had a function people needed. He would regularly interact with the community, and together that would foster a local culture and a national identity. A postman mattered to his neighborhood, people knew his name, he belonged. But now we're just interchangeable corporate units, numbers in a screen on an algorithm. Today's social media rubs luxury lifestyles in our faces daily. It makes normal jobs seem not good enough. You failed if you're just a teacher or just a nurse. At the same time, people are struggling so much that a peaceful life with those jobs is incredibly enviable. Most would love to contribute in their own small way and get rewarded for it. Have a house, not stress about money, and see their kids. Instead, we're expected to be hyper-competitive, always clawing up to the top, pulling all-nighters for corporate margins we'll never benefit from, all for wages far lower than our parents earned. Choosing to be a nurse or a teacher in cities like London is just like signing up to a deal to be poor for the sake of contributing to a society. And you can see how messed up that is, especially if you don't feel any connection to that society in the first place. But if we pull back the layers, we can see exactly how they restructured society to make this happen. Just look at the top universities. In 2025, Berkeley had an 11% acceptance rate. In 1973, 40%. Other top universities are the same. They've gotten larger and richer, but admission numbers haven't kept pace, as the supply has been artificially constrained by people in control. It is better if there's less degrees going around, as then the value of those degrees look better with fewer graduates. Colleges then look more prestigious with restrictive intake, but most of all, it prevents too many people from getting into upper levels of society and disrupting the status quo. The same extractive pattern spread to housing. Once enough people owned homes, they had a vested interest in keeping prices high. Building more houses would increase supply, which would lower prices and hurt their property values. So older homeowners who voted far more reliably than younger renters started fighting against new construction. Politicians responded by creating more and more restrictions on building. Zoning laws got stricter, planning permission became harder to get, development ground to a halt in places where people wanted to live. On the ground level, you saw NIMBYism everywhere. UK pensioners protested against the developments that would have added thousands of desperately needed homes to their area. What were they protecting? An empty field. The real reason, each new house might slightly lower their property values. And when over 56% of the UK housing is owned by people over 60, they have enormous political power to protect their wealth. So the results are predictable. Rents skyrocketed because supply just couldn't keep up with demand.
I mean, it's the same phenomenon in America. And man, like, I know people are like, man, don't make this generational, but like, you just saw it. Like, the old generation is just, I guess boomers, not even, would it be Gen X too? Maybe the oldest of Gen X. But they're just they're literally doing it now. Their property value would have gone down a little bit just for the rest of people to have a fighting chance to own a home. Right? But they're like, no, wait, what? No, I can't, that can't happen. So it's just like, obviously it's not the entire older generation, but it's really like it's what I said before. It's really the I got what I got. Nobody, I don't even care if the new generation even has a fighting chance. I'm gonna burn the bridge behind me because this is my world. These are my assets. This is my money. It's just like but they don't. And maybe they do. Maybe they do have a good idea what this is actually going to do to society as a whole, and they just don't care, because they got what, I don't know, 20 years left. I mean, these are the Nancy Pelosi's, right? Who got to benefit for 40 fucking years, and it's not just her, but like the majority of Congress and Trump as well. You know, just benefit. Oh, cash out and say screw you guys. You know what I mean? And just leave a burning world behind them. You know, so I mean, come on, man. Like this is just, I just can't, dude. This hurts to watch, man. This hurts to watch because these are real people who have to put up with this shit and these numbers and try to survive, dude, and try to get through the day. I mean, you know, it's so hard. I know I've talked to a lot of go-getters who moved to Paraguay who are really good at what they do and all that. But, you know, I try to remember the people who are just trying to survive as well, you know. It's hard out there, man. I talk to people from back home, and people are struggling, dude. I know some people are like, oh, well, I got this raise and all that, but yeah, but the rest of society is degenerate. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm glad that some people are doing all right or whatever, but, you know, I mean, there's so much instability as well. Blue collar, white collar, AI's coming, like, you know, job layoffs in general. You know, and everybody who's, you know, kind of saying that, you know, everything's going great. It's like, okay, dude, but you know, I would be making some backup plans about, you know, second residency, also a side hustle, an online side hustle at that. Whether it's literally you talking about your life on YouTube and then a year from now you become monetized, my situation, and then you just keep growing from there type deal. But you know, people got to get on it, man. People really do got to get on it. So, oh my God, dude. And I hate that I have to go there about like, you have to do more than just the 9 to 5, but it's true. That's why I'm literally doing this video, late at night here on a Friday night. I was just going to watch this, but I was like, you know what? My analytics are kind of low right now. I had good analytics the last couple of days, but I really want to keep up that RPM for what I made that last couple of days off of a video I just did. So let's put out another one there for a topic that's really close to home because, man, this, like, you know, you have to think outside the box. And I kind of hate that it has to be that way, but it's true for younger people, you know. It's what I'm going to stress to my kids one day when I have kids, you know. Like, you guys, like, you know, do the foundational job, but always be working on other projects, always, you know. And hopefully as their father, I can set them up to do some of that stuff, and they'll hopefully, you know, follow my lead for content creation or something else, something that's not degenerate, you know. But you know, I don't know, it's just sometimes I think about, you know, damn, I really wish that I could have just made life work. You know, one job, affordability, and have it be that, you know, the path of least resistance, right? But still having good outcomes in America. But now it's just like, man, I got to take a path that's difficult and I got to learn 10,000 skills and you know what I mean? And, you know, it's just like, it's never ending, dude. And yeah, then you got to be your perfect self and self-improvement and all this stuff. And it's like, you know, it really is like just a constant grind, you know, nowadays. So, you know, whether you're Ubering on the side or whether you're doing something like I'm doing on the side, and I don't suggest Ubering. Well, okay, I mean, if you have to, but this is what I mean. Like, set yourself to be something different. You know what I mean? Online, something that'll live online, you know? So, anyways, all right. Let's keep going. The last couple of minutes here.
Especially with rising mass immigration, young people would then be entirely priced out of the housing market, having no real opportunity to buy homes like their parents did. On a wider scale, even more red tape was created. Old people vote more than young people, so politicians cater to their demands, however destructive this could be long-term. It's all part of a process that Bourdieu called utopia of endless exploitation. But he argued the current path in society right now is designed to destroy collective structures for the sake of pure market logic, creating what he called the absolute reign of flexibility, fixed-term contracts instead of stable jobs, constant competition within companies, even within teams. The workplace is full of self-monitoring and self-exploitation disguised as autonomy. You're told you're your own boss and that you have freedom, but you're just exploiting yourself more efficiently. He said, in this way our Darwinian world emerges. It is the struggle of all against all at all levels of the hierarchy, which finds support through everyone clinging to their job and organization under conditions of insecurity, suffering, and stress. That means governments and companies, often working in tandem, progressively dismantle where community could happen. Third places, cafes, libraries, community centers, corner pubs, nice downtown areas, barbershops even, where you'd run into neighbors, are just disappearing completely. In America, we see it specifically with even public transport being completely wiped away in favor of giant freeways, where you just commute every single day, going from your house to work, and nothing else, all in the pursuit of a more efficient economic model. But these spaces were critical. They buffered stress, loneliness, and alienation. And when they disappear, everything worsens. Isolation, crime addiction, and cultural polarization. This is the deeper issue. We might scrape out a living, but anything else is just a fantasy. And when it comes to what people need to feel human, most people don't have access to that like they once did. And for those hellbent on making a living in this system, you'll often have to move to the big city. How many people do you know who did that? And how many of them got burned out? How many do you think secretly don't enjoy it even if they don't admit it to save face and prevent themselves from breaking down? The city is where success is made, right? Or really, is that something you need to do to survive because there's no choice? Maybe you hate the idea of just being one in millions living in a city. And what does it look like when you get there? Drag yourself out of bed, commute, slave at corporate tasks from an algorithm. Your colleagues are there for the exact same reasons. You all know you could be replaced. There's no real connection, and you all have to stifle your own real, authentic selves. When it's done, you're completely burnt out, repressed, with no time or energy for anything but eating and chores. Then vegging out to some doom scrolling, trying not to think about tomorrow or the day after that. Or if you work at home, there comes the motivation-sapping isolation, the loneliness, the grueling lack of social contact that makes you feel less secure. Like everything great is happening somewhere else in the city and you're not invited. See, where is the reward here? Where's the progression when so many of us are living like this? You don't see the actual rewards for your work and it destroys people's sense of self. It's only visible in consumerist life. Struggling just to go from cheap instant coffee to expensive lattes, from cheap fast fashion to expensive designer fast fashion made in the same factory. Maybe a slightly better TV to collapse in front of, but there is just no goal past that. So is it really any surprise that people are rejecting this destroyed social contract and moving away, often taking much bigger risks than they once did? Most people don't even want to do this, even if they do end up enjoying it. I mean, do you really want to leave your friends and family permanently? Do you really want to live somewhere all the way across the world in a completely different culture and language? Well, when your society becomes so extractive and the social contract is so broken, sometimes it is just the only option. And it's a much better option than just staying where you are. And I mean, if you're going to be happier somewhere else, then it's probably worth doing. It's probably the necessary sacrifice needed. It is just why so many of us are leaving the West at this point. But at this point, you might wonder what you could actually do in this situation. As we all know, we're getting a bad deal in the West. Globalization and technology have damaged society, of course. Your job might have been outsourced or your community fell apart under the pressure of change. But history tells us tides always change. First the Great Depression, then the New Deal. Governments of New Zealand, the UK, and everywhere in the West might not have realized this yet, but they will soon. And it's now your choice where you end up. Most will be unwilling to move. You might want to stick close to family or weather the storm wherever you are. But don't forget that there are other burgeoning opportunities elsewhere, and other societies might actually appreciate and reward your work more. It might just be worth the risk, and to reset your mind at least for a few years. Because once you leave the West, you finally get true perspective on how life can be lived.
Great documentary. Yeah. But at the same time, there's a few things that it did not mention. The biggest thing that it did not mention is, and it barely touched on it, was better romantic options. That's how it said it, right? But yeah, dating abroad and in more traditional countries is going to be better. It's not perfect, and arguably these days it's becoming more similar to the West because everybody in the old third world, I mean, hardly we should hardly even use that term anymore, because the first world is pretty much turning into the third world. Um, but there is more of a chance, right? More of a chance, not 100% chance, but so it didn't really go into that. It didn't make any distinctions between men and women, but it was pretty much economic. But it was still a good give us a little bit of a historical context, etc. But let's get into some comments here, and yeah, you will own nothing and be happy. Uh, if you work hard enough in New Zealand, your boss can take a second holiday. Oh my god, dude! Yeah, that's so true. Um, Western society forgot its own people. Yeah, yeah. Okay, wait, hold on. Let's all right, let's see the top ones. Comments. Okay, well, I guess we are seeing the top comments. Um, Comfortable people begin to ask questions. People in survival mode don't. It's obvious that the oligarchs slash elites would rather rule over the ashes than lose their power. Divide and conquer all day, every day. Well said. Well said. Yeah, man. Yeah, especially that comfortable people begin to ask uh, questions. People in survival mode don't. Yeah. Um, yeah. Yeah. I guess I'd probably mostly agree. I. But the only thing I guess I'd add on to that is starting to ask questions is good. Having an awakening is good. Taking action is even better. Again, if you can't make the full move abroad, still figure out permanent residency and hold on to it for dear life for a chance at a dignified retirement. So because I know it's a big barrier, especially for blue collar folks. But even blue collar folks have smartphones, have the ability to start YouTube channels now that's going to bless you in 1, 2, 5, 10 years, and especially 20, 30 years when you're actually looking to retire. So, I mean, I know that a lot of people are like, yeah, but I don't have it for YouTube, Brian. I was like, dude, look at me. I'm a clown, man. And, I was so imperfect. If you guys go back to my first videos, I did not look very well, incredibly overweight, still am, but was even more like, you know, I could not speak very well either. All my settings were jacked up, and I had sound quality issues and all this stuff, and I was figuring stuff out and learning in real time, and slowly getting better at videos and all that. But I mean, you got to start somewhere, man. You got to start somewhere, and if you're not going to be the thing, the why I stress YouTube so much is if you're not going to go into something else, if you're not going to start a business, if you're not going to go all these other crazy routes, take on immediately a entirely new job, which honestly you probably couldn't anyway, because you're going to need at least some skills for that job, or at least transferable skills, right? So I don't know. That's why I stress YouTube, right? Because YouTube, anybody can start, and again, it's only going to bless you with time. Just stay in there, try your best to stick out in some way. Yeah, so, and again, in my case, yeah, am I absolutely crushing it monetarily with YouTube? No, not yet, but I do have nearly 2,000 subscribers, and looking where I'm at this very date, right before 2026, I'd rather start with 2,000 than go back to zero. You know what I mean? So these platforms and not only just the numbers and the ads and stuff, but it can bless you in other ways too, with brand deals and other opportunities and consultations like I do, and point people in the right directions and all this stuff. And now I got merch on the channel, so it can open the doors for a lot of other things as well. Okay, so um, okay, my family is from Bulgaria. We moved to the UK 14 years ago for a better life opportunities. Now half of them, including me, are seriously considering moving back. Yeah, man, like I was born here in '91 in Paraguay. I wouldn't well, not like I could have. I was still a child, but like even and the world is changing. It's a little bit more online. Yes, technology is terrible, but there are avenues to break in. Again, going back to YouTube. But yeah, I mean, people would have said I'm crazy even just 12 years ago to come here to move to Paraguay just outright. But now, nah, not at all, man. Asuncion is thriving. Asuncion is modern. And yeah. Okay. Yeah, Asia is only good if you earn a Western salary while working there. I mean, yeah, same with Latin America. Otherwise, for a Filipino, for example, living in the capital, minimum wage is about $10 to $11 a day. That's actually pretty similar to here. I think it's like 13 to 15 here in Paraguay. Maybe it's a little bit more now. While mostly rent for a decent, clean, and safe apartment is close to $250 a month for a one bedroom. Both husband and wife have to work to afford this barely. Foreigners come over with $3,000 pensions and think, hey, it's so cheap, when in reality, they make it slowly more unaffordable for locals. Yeah, I know, man. That's hard, dude. Like that's hard for. I mean, the thing is we're all individuals, right? You're not going to stop trends. I'm not going to stop trends. I don't feel responsible for, you know, even if there was a big influx for some reason because of my channel or something like that. I mean, it's bound to happen regardless. So, in my case, I'm just like, let's invite the right people. If gentrification happens, yes. The biggest thing that you can do as foreigners is not to let them screw you for unfair prices, because that's what really contributes to gentrification, right? Getting gringo priced here in Latin America. Make sure you figure out what are fair prices, what a local would pay, even if it is a nicer place, So anyways, okay. All right. You can't afford to live in the country you were born in, but people who weren't born there are given a free ride. Yeah, let's go into immigration stuff. I'm not going to touch on that. That's too messy of a topic. And honestly, I mean, yeah, it's just way too messy. Okay, I think we're done now. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in, you guys. You guys get the picture. Nothing too groundbreaking or anything from this documentary, but it does put a lot of things into perspective, just from an entire, I guess, Western world, looking at this problem of unaffordability at the core. Then there's other problems after that, but people. Well, I guess if we go back to that triangle, getting some meaning out of your life as well. Yes, it's unaffordable, but you don't feel like you're doing anything in your home country either. So it's a whole mess. Right? I guess last thing I'll say is just start on processes earlier rather than later. Things can change. Things can get harder. Yeah, that's all I'll say, because it's very late and I need to go to bed. So, anyways, this is Ryan Aranda here, My Best Life Paraguay. Thanks for tuning in to another one, very long reaction video. But I appreciate you guys being here, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.